Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to the Hearthstone Weekly Show. Now, this week we are going over the final game from Fight Night Hearthstone. Now, there were 2 seasons done for Managrind versus Dogehouse. Last week I did an episode from the first season. This week I'm doing the ace match from the second season. That's why this video is delayed, because I was waiting for it to come onto YouTube at a decent quality. I wasn't up at a decent quality my time before I went to bed like yesterday, so I'm doing it today, so as a result it's a couple hours behind schedule as far as going up on YouTube. However, now the ace match is a format where all the teams they have to play together basically. So normally the ace match in the past was the teams pick a player and then they have 3 ace match decks and they just play it. The newer format that ESGN came up with was that all 4 players play in the team and they all discuss the moves as they do them, so they all play together. They all sit around the same computer and they all play together. There's also a drafting type format where you can ban one class each and then you pick classes. So you can't have mirror matches basically, each class is exclusive. They also have to build new decks on the spot for this. They get about 10 minutes to do it. In this case it's edited down so you don't have to wait for 10 minutes for them to do it, but all the decks they make are completely new. So anyway, for this weekly I'm going to be going over 2 games, the last game in the series, and also a very interesting matchup which we're going to be going over first. I'm also going to go over the drafting and sort of explain why certain things are being picked and why certain things are being banned. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So first ban goes to Managrind, if I recall correctly. Now they ban out the Hunter. Now the reason why you want to get rid of Hunter in this kind of situation, Hunter is not particularly powerful, however it's very coin flippy. And in an ace match you don't want to deal with coin flippy. You don't want to play with the coin flippy deck, you don't want to play against the coin flippy deck because you might just randomly lose to it. You might randomly lose one of your best decks to it for no reason. So they're just getting rid of that. They don't want variance in this particular ace match. Now, as for Dogehouse, they get their ban now, and then it goes sort of pick, and then 2 picks. So even going second, you get the 2 picks first. So it's fairly balanced out in that regard. Now, things they could ban out, they could ban out Shaman. They could ban out Druid, possibly. I'm guessing Mage will be sort of left until the end. Mage and Priest will probably be the 2 classes people don't want to get, so they'll be left until the end. Warrior ban could also be doing it, and this is one of the weirdest parts of the entire drafting thing for me, was banning out Mage. I don't particularly understand this. I mean, I guess it's because they have 2 picks, so they want to be picking 2 of the most powerful classes. But there's so many powerful classes in the pool right now. They still have Warlock, Druid, Rogue, Shaman, Warrior, which are the top 5 at the moment, so it feels kind of weird. The Hunter one makes a bit of sense. The Mage one, I don't know. I don't think Mage is even viable at the moment. So I will have to see how it sort of goes through with the rest of the draft, but I don't think banning Mage was the correct sort of move there. So anyway, Managrind pick up the Shaman, which makes a lot of sense. They do have Chiaki on the actual team, who's sort of the inventor of the OTK Shaman list. And they also have a couple of very good Shaman players on the actual team who dedicate a lot of time to Shaman, so it makes sense that they pick that up. Now, from Dogehouse, I'm expecting Warrior and probably Warlock or Druid. They don't have very large decks with Miracle Rogue, ever. Managrind does. That's why I kind of expected them to ban Rogue, maybe. But they're going to end up picking up the Warrior and the Warlock because they feel more comfortable with Warlock as opposed to Druid, which is another weird sort of decision in this regard. But Miracle Rogue was an interesting one not to ban out over Mage. I must admit, when I was actually watching this first time, I did expect them to ban Rogue or Warrior. Warrior because Dark 1X actually came up with the deck that a lot of people use, so you can play it better than most people. And Rogue because they've had a lot more success with Rogue as opposed to Dogehouse, which whenever they run Miracle Rogue doesn't do much, but Managrind swept a couple of series with Miracle Rogue. But yeah, here they're going to pick up the Warlock and the Warrior. Now, the Warrior they pick up because it's a very, very powerful deck. The reason they go Warlock over Druid is because Druid is very, very funneled into what it can do, whereas Warlock can become control, sort of giant handlock, or it can be aggro with Murlocs or just Zoo. So there's a lot of variance depending on what your third class is, what you actually end up picking up when it comes to Warlock. And that's probably why it was picked up in the first place. Now, for Managrind, it's pretty much going to be a Snap Rogue Druid here. You don't want Paladin, you don't want Priest. Priest they had some success with, but Rogue Druid is the better one here. Miracle Rogue seems to be the sort of ace in the hole in this particular season, and Druid is just a solid class overall. I mean, you can argue picking up Paladin, but I think Paladin is one of the weaker classes in the game right now. I would say Paladin is sort of bottom 3, with Mage, then Priest, then Paladin being the bottom 3. With Mage being the worst, Paladin being the best of those 3. Anyway, so for the last pick, Dogehouse is just going to pick up the Paladin. I would assume they're not going to get Priest. Priest is pretty bad, and they don't really have any sort of revolutionary Priest players or anything like that. Traditionally, Dogehouse has always done better with Paladin and Warlock, and arguably Druid, whereas Managrind, they have a lot of players who play a lot of weird decks. I mean, you've got Kalento, who's famous for his Miracle Rogue, Dark Onyx is famous for Warrior, Chaki on the Shaman, and even Duckwing Face, who didn't end up going to Final, but he hit Legend several times with Priest. So generally the Managrind team is more well known for its versatility in terms of classes, whereas Dogehouse is very, very known for its ability to play certain classes extremely well. The other thing they're known for is Shaman. Shaman is very, very good. And hello, Artosis. So, moving on to... Now, this is actually the second game in the series. The first game was fairly boring overall, but we're going to move on to the second game, which was a Warrior deck from Dogehouse playing against the Shaman from Managrind. Shaman sort of, I felt, is the swinging aspect in a lot of these series. I do feel it's the best class in the format at the moment. It has the best overall matchups. It's the class I'm currently playing on ladder, actually. To a lot of success. I think it's got very, very good matchups against most things. Warrior, Druid, Warlock. It has good matchups against most. I think Warlock aggro is a bit of a coin flip. Hunter Rush is a bit of a coin flip. It's not an auto loss, as some people think it is. It's very, very coin flippy. So they actually have good matchups against most of the decks that are played a lot in the format right now. They're also very, very good against Paladin, although that's a smaller thing. So anyway, in this particular matchup, the Shaman, if I recall correctly, actually beat a Druid to get here. And I think it has the advantage over this Warrior deck. I probably would have brought in the Paladin, because you could go Paladin aggro and really mess up the Shaman, or at least have a chance of doing so. And I don't agree with bringing in the Warrior here, personally. Anyway, on to mulliganing. So, we had Managrind is going second, Dogehouse going first. Now, going first for Dogehouse, I would mulligan the Brawl. I think I would keep the Acolyte Pain, the Whirlwind. But I would mulligan the Brawl, definitely. You don't want that in your opening hand. As far as Managrind goes, this is a pretty decent hand. Lightning Storm helps against any sort of rush Warrior, which is what they're kind of scared of. Earthshock, again, rush also helps with things like Frothing Berserkers and Acolyte Pains early, and Feral Spirit's just so early card. The Hex, not so much, and I forgot to... Wow, I'm making a bunch of mistakes today. Anyway, so they could send back the Lightning Storm. They're debating it. Yeah, they're going to send it back. I can sort of see why if they have Feral Spirits, although I do prefer to keep it. Now, they keep the Brawl. That's interesting to me. I'm not sure I would have kept the Brawl there. I know it's only a one-off, but it still feels a little sketchy. And there's the Nat Pagal. Turn 1 Nat Pagal. So ridiculous. Now, there is no answer to a Nat Pagal in that hand. There is actually no answer for several turns. So this thing is going to sit here for ages. Now, we're just going to see probably Totem pass. Second draw on the Pagel, pretty big deal. There's the Shield Slam. We're actually going to see the Armor Up Shield Slam. Well, the Pagel drew a net gain of 1. So, it is, in essence, it is exactly a 3 for 1, which is a little awkward. Now, for this turn, there's a couple things they could throw out. I think I would just throw out the Manatide Totem, just draw into Oblivion. You can set up yourself really nicely for the next couple turns. Although, something to keep in mind is there are 8 cards in hand. If you play Manatide, you'll go up to 9 next turn. And then 10. So you need to be careful about that. But I think you can play this Manatide and assume it's not going to live 3 turns. So I would just slam the Manatide here. Okay, so this is the problem with the Warrior deck against Shamans. They don't have that many options. He's actually going to throw out the Whirlwind here. Now, the reason for that is, 1, it helps better with your mana, and 2, you need to cycle out and guarantee that your Acolyte's going to draw more than 1 card. If you actually look at the list, though, on... just going to pause this. If you actually look at the list that Managrind Dogehouse are running, Dogehouse is running the Alexstrasza Ysera variant of this deck, of Warrior, whereas the Shaman deck that Managrind is playing has Argent Squires in it, which is an interesting addition, 1 Manatide, 1 Nat Pagel, and 1 Defender of Argus and Alakir, so it's sort of OTK mid-range. Now for this turn, I think you just put down the Yeti. You can probably slam the Yeti. You'll go up to 4, 8, 9, 10 cards when you draw next turn, which means you have to play something, which is a little awkward. But it does mean you can get a fairly large body on the board at the moment. That's one of the reasons why it's taking so long to think about this. 1, they're discussing it between the 4 of them, and 2, you need to count cards in your hand when you have Manatide Totems on the board. It really messes you up if you don't count cards, and you can start burning cards if you're not careful. Yeah, so I imagine we're just going to see the Yeti come down here. The other argument is Feral Spirits, although I don't really like that one as much. Less mana efficient. Besides, if you're more mana efficient, it actually lets you burn through cards faster, which is a small thing. Do you brawl? I don't think you do brawl. I think you say brawl for later. I imagine you just slam your own Yeti here. There's not much else you can do. Slam your own Yeti, kill the 0-1. He could risk the brawl, but it's too much of a risk. Not to mention you only have 1. You only have 1 brawl on the whole list. But yeah, the actual variation they're playing is Baron-Geddon. They're playing Grom Ragnaros as usual. They're playing Baron-Geddon, Ysera, Alexstrasza, and Gorhal. Lots and lots of high drops in this particular variation of this deck. Now, I do feel as if it's still a bad matchup, however, as Shaman is probably the class gifted the most in terms of getting rid of large things. Interesting that they're cycling out the shield block here. There are currently 10 cards in hand, which means they actually have to burn some cards, which is kind of awkward. So I imagine they could even Feral Spirit. Blood Mage is even kind of risky. I mean, Blood Mage, Earthshock, Argent Squire would be the correct play, I think. Yeah, it would be. The reason for that is because you want to lower your hand size. You want to get 2 cards out of your hand, Blood Mage will cycle, Manatide will place one of them, and then your draw will play the other one. So you go back up to 10 cards. This is one of the problems with Manatide Totem. But it does mean that they can cycle through their entire deck and just use spells inefficiently, which is a big, big boon against a lot of sort of efficiency reliant decks like Warrior. Karen will just come out here. Yeah. Earthshock's already been used. We can go straight for the Karen. Now, normally you'd hex this. I think you actually just Tinkmaster this. I think you just Tinkmaster. Now, you can Tinkmaster. You have a lot of cards in your hand. If it's a 5/5, it's kind of awkward, which, yeah, it's a 5/5. So, you can go Axe Rockbiter. I mean, the other play was Axe the Blood Mage, attack it, and then kill it with the Ardent Squire, which I think I would prefer overall. It means you cycle a card. Yeah, you cycle, so you have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in hand. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, you'd have 10 in hand again. Little bit awkward, but you can still work with it. As a result, we're going up to 8 with effective 9 on the Blood Mage. But that play was a little bit awkward, but I think it's going to pay out here. You need to brawl this as far as I'm concerned. You have to brawl this. I would say you have to brawl this. You can Gore Howl, but you're taking a lot of damage. Alright, he's going to go for the Gore Howl. That Manatide Totem's been alive for so long. Manatide Totems actually survive a long time. As long as you keep threats on the board, they just don't leave. I think Azure Drake, actually, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, you can. You can Azure Drake here and just attack and pass. You keep having to count cards though. Like this, especially last turn, if played optimally, you would have burnt 2 cards. And it's kind of odd where if you have so much card draw, you actually start to burn through your own cards, and it's one of sort of the major skill testing things about playing Shaman with Manatide Totem, is drawing 2 cards a turn is great, but if you're not counting the cards in your hand, you start burning cards, which is horrible. Now, I think I would just Azure Drake here. You could Flame Tongue, but I think I would Azure Drake. I would not play Feral Spirits. I definitely wouldn't play Feral Spirits. I would have just Totemed. Because this is now, you're so vulnerable to Brawl. So incredibly vulnerable to Brawl. I think that was a massive misplay. I would have just gone for the Azure Drake. I do feel that was a huge, huge mistake. And it's not going to cost them the game or anything, but it means that you just lost Feral Spirits for no reason. Alright, if you played Azure Drake, then you invested 0 cards into the Brawl, and he has to Brawl anyway. You invest 0 cards into the Brawl because you draw off it. But if you play it this way, then you invest 2 cards into the Brawl and make his Brawl more likely to hit something which is weaker. So he's just going to get a 6 minion Brawl here, which is really, really rough. Now I'm guessing the Manatide's going to live here. Nope, it's going to be the Tinkmaster. Last minion into the Brawl always lives. Kind of annoying to know that trick, actually, once you do know it, because it means you always know what the Brawl is gonna. There's no like exciting part of Brawl once you know that the last minion into the Brawl is always the one that lives. Now, for this turn, I think you can just go Azure Drake Earthshock. Azure Drake Earthshock, cut him off from his card advantage. You're already really far ahead in cards. You can even see on the side the deck. If you actually look on the side, there's sort of Hearthstone has this weird deck thing on the side where it's thick depending on the cards, but it's not as accurate as it should be. Anyway, I should imagine we're just gonna see the Azure Drake Earthshock come down here. You could Fire Elemental it, but if you Fire Elemental it, then he draws a card. So I should imagine that just Earthshocking it is the best play here. Again, if you hadn't played the Feral Spirits, then you'd have Totem mana up for this turn, which actually would have been quite useful. Or just Feral Spirit mana. You could have gone Azure Drake Feral Spirit if you needed to. Yeah, this is kind of awkward because of that feral spirit thing. I really disagree with that. I really disagreed with that. Debating the fire elemental. Fire elemental's actively more powerful, but Azure Drake cycles through, denies him card advantage. The Gore Howl has attacked twice, if I recall correctly, which makes it on 5 attack. 5 or 4. Didn't count that correctly. I think we're just going to see the golden Azure Drake come down here. Yeah, Azure Drake Earth Shock. Deny your opponent card advantage when you're ahead. Alright, it's at 5. Because it's at 5, it also helps out the fact that Fire Elemental would die to that, whereas Azure Drake also dies to it normally, but Azure Drake cycles, and it means you can keep your threat in your deck, which is nice. Now, we could just see, Alexstrasza come down here. But you may want to save Alexstrasza for healing. Something we could see, actually, is just, I think Alexstrasza targeting your opponent into next turn, Grom, Cruel Taskmaster, that's basically good game. In fact, that is good game if there's no taunt, so I think I would just go for that. Just put Alexstrasza down, take out the 4/4, put Alexstrasza down, take the Shaman's life down to 15, and then open the gate for a kill. Yeah, that's definitely the line I would follow in this particular case. Now, for this weekly show, I'm actually going to be doing 2 games, because naturally, if you have 4 players deciding, it drags the games out a lot. So doing 3 would end up with an hour and a half long weekly show, and I'm not up for that, and people don't want to watch an hour and a half weekly show. Like, not just to watch a couple of games and talk about them. They're really thinking this through. I mean, there is something to think about, which is the Alakir Rockbiter possibility. What would you do? You take 12 plus from the weapon, that's 2, so you take 14, 18. Yeah, that's what they're thinking about, is the fact that you die. You die to that. Alright, they're taking the risk. I know they have the Alakir in hand. Do they have the Rockbiter? I already played one Rockbiter, so it's actually a pretty decent risk. But no, they do have the other Rockbiter, and that's going to seal the game. It was a risk, and I would have taken that same risk. But it was a risk, and it didn't pay off in this particular case. But I think it was actually a risk that was worth taking. The Shaman deck was so far ahead in cards that they're going to have a Hex, so you need to risk sort of the win straight away. And they did die because of it, because Alakir and the Rockbiter weapon. However, the real question is, was it worth it? And I think it was. You could have won straight on that turn. Second Rockbiter in hand along with Alakir was a little unlucky as far as from the warrior perspective here. But it was a risk that they took. Didn't pay off. Paid off for Managrind. They got the Alakir Rockbiter, and they took the second game in the series. The Shaman went 2-0. Now, after that, Paladin aggro deck was brought down, and it won 2 games in a row. Paladin aggro is a very, very odd deck. It's not very consistent. It's a very, very odd deck, and it performed quite well because of the particular deck choices. We had Shaman and Druid and Rogue. Now, Druid normally beats Paladin aggro, but there wasn't that good of a draw. there wasn't that good of a draw for Managrind, pretty good draw for Dogehouse, so they ran over it. Now, Miracle Rogue comes out here. Miracle Rogue traditionally has a pretty mediocre matchup against these particular things. They have removal, but they need to draw specific removal like Backstab. Now, anyway. So, looking at mulligans, for Dogehouse, pretty good hand. I would just send back the True Silver. You don't want True Silver in your opening hand. You want to top deck it later on, especially when you're playing this many 1 and 2 drops. Argent Squire, King Mukla, very, very good to have in your opening hand. As for Managrind, Shiv, Sap being sent back, I can see sort of why. I mean, they know the deck. They know the deck at this point. I can see why. Shiv is a bit awkward. You want other... Right, Shiv is not the worst card. But you want other cards besides Shiv, because you have Hero Power. Hero Power does something very, very similar. So you probably just want things like Backstab instead. Now, the SI7s are being kept here. I think I would definitely keep one. The second one is debatable, but I think it's being kept here because there's the coin, which helps smooth out a little bit, and you can just play it as a 3-mana 3/3 if you need to. So they might send back the second SI7. They might send back the Shiv. I think I would send back the Shiv and the second SI. It's debatable though. They're keeping both. And there's the Leroy. It's pretty bad hand to start with. You do have the SI7, but besides that, it's not too good. You have the coin SI7, but that's about it. Now, usually the counter to Argent Squire is coin Hero Power, but you can't do that here. You can't coin Hero Power because you need the coin for your SI7s. Little awkward. Deadly Poison is going to help out a lot here, however. Oh, there's Knife Juggler. He was debating Loot Hoarder. I think we're still going to see Loot Hoarder here. Bait some removal. Are we going to see the coin SI7? I think Hero Power may be slightly safer. We are going to see the coin SI. The reason I say Hero Power is because it means you can deal with Mukla and think, wait, it's like, well, why would they know Mukla? Because this is the third game they played against the deck. They know Mukla's in the deck. Now they have a little bit of issues dealing with Mukla. Now, we're going to see the Wolf Rider come down here. The simple reason for that is because if you play King Mukla, he can just use 2 bananas on the SI7, which is going to kill the Mukla, which is a little awkward. But what I mean by sort of the difficulty is, as soon as you don't have a board presence, the Mukla is just going to come down and ruin your day. Now, for this turn, I would say that Hero Power and then ping the shield is probably the best play. Not much point in doing anything else. And now we can see the Knife Juggler and the Argent Protector. Yeah. There was a door open for Mukla there, but Knife Juggler is more valuable of a threat than King Mukla, especially when you can give it shield. That is a perfect draw. That is an actual perfect draw. We're going to see Backstab on the Argent Protector, attack the Knife Juggler with the dagger, and then SI7 the Knife Juggler. And that'll clear the board almost entirely. You take 3 damage because of it, but being on 22 life, with you have a 3/3 on the board, pretty good. Yeah, I mean, the other play they're debating here is possibly Backstab SI7 to save it. I mean, you could in theory dagger, Deadly Poison, and Backstab something, but I don't like any of the other plays. I think SI7 with Backstab is the smoothest play to go here. I just feel as any of the other possible plays are a little odd, like the Deadly Poison one. And that's a mistake. That is a very, very big mistake. I don't understand why that was made. I really don't understand why that was made. There should be a 1-1 on the board right now, not a 2-2. That made no sense to me. That actually made no sense. Okay, that's... whatever. Moving on. I don't like that play in any respect whatsoever. Getting rid of a 2-2 and having a 3-3 on the board against a 1-1, in this particular regard, it wouldn't have mattered because of the abusive sergeant, but what happens if he doesn't have the abusive? That's the thing you've got to ask yourself, and it's kind of awkward to go for that. Now, Shiv Eviscerate will kill that Mukla, and I imagine that's what we're going to see. Yeah, Shiv Eviscerate. Unfortunately, don't have the dagger out to kill that abusive. However, you can kill the Mukla. Also cycle through a few more cards, and there's the Gadget stand with bananas in hand. Perfect! Next turn, we could just see Gadget stand conceal. Oh, there's a redemption. Keep in mind that redemption works differently pre-patch, where you can activate it on your turn. It doesn't have to be activated by your opponent, so you can charge into something and it will redeem itself and come back and you can charge again. I actually thought that was a pretty cool interaction. I thought it was a really, really cool interaction, and they got rid of it. Because reasons. Actually, no, they got rid of it because of the Hunter Trap stack, but it was still a really dumb reason to get rid of it. I actually quite liked the Paladin interactions. All they had to do was like change the way Hunter Traps worked. But they pretty much killed off redemption while they were at it. The 1-1 here is a little sketchy with the redemption, but it works. Summoning a 1-1 when you have redemption is always kind of sketchy, to be fair. Now, we could just see Gadgetzan Banana. I think we're going to see Gadgetzan Conceal and just start cycling through the deck. You're taking 5 because of it, but at this point, I think you can risk it. I think you can risk it at this point to take 5. And just go Gadgetzan Conceal. Avenging Wrath would completely destroy him if it actually got lucky, if he got a full 50% Avenging Wrath. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there aren't really that many other plays. You could Dagger, I guess, but then you're still taking 5. In fact, you're actually taking 6 because there's a redemption. So you're either taking 6 or you're taking 7 if it's a redemption or a noble sacrifice. So a little sketchy on that regard. Now we're just going to see the Arcane Golem come out here, and probably just the protection on the Arcane. Turn it into Argent Commander. And he's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage here. Please don't put the Divine Shield in the 2-1. Please, 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 please don't put the Divine Shield in the 2-1. It makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. Okay, on the 4-2, that makes a lot of sense. Some really weird decision making going on in this series. Okay, so what do you do from here? This is a really awkward position. You need a Fan of Knives. You absolutely need a Fan of Knives. I think I would start cycling Fan of Knives. Banana on the Gadgetzan. Cold Blood on the Gadgetzan. Or second Banana. Cold Blood, I think. Cold Blood's more valuable. Need a Fan of Knives. There's a Shiv, that'll help. I think you, at this point, you have to... You have to Shiv the 4-2. Yeah, you have to Shiv the 4-2. He's going to draw 2 cards from this. There's the Blade Flurry. Oh my god, that's perfect. Now, what you have to do here is you have to figure out, is it Redemption or is it... Well, I mean, is it Redemption or is it Noble Sack? Either way, you're going to Dagger, and I think you're going to kill a 1-1. Because it might be Redemption. You don't want to take 1 extra damage and then Blade Flurry. And then you're going to have to kill the 4-2 with the Gadgetzan. Or either kill the 4-2 with the Gadgetzan or kill the 2-2. That Blade Flurry is huge though. Yeah, he's gonna go down to 10. Then he's dead to True Silver. At this point, he's just dead to True Silver. You still have to limit. Yeah, dead to True Silver if you don't take out anything. I would take out the 4-2. Gives you 2 swings from True Silver. But it does mean that you're not dead to like consecrate into True Silver or something. That means stupid. Now, I would personally say take out the 4-2. Take out the 4-1. You can't just be dead to True Silver. That is a horrible, horrible plan. You can just take out the 2-1 actually, because if you take out the 2-1, you're still not dead to True Silver, and in fact the 2 damage is not that important. You're still dead to 2 swings from True Silver, not 1. So taking out the 2-1 is actually exactly the same as taking out the 4-1 in this particular regard. The worst thing you can do is go for the face. That is the worst thing you can do, because you're just dead to True Silver. He hasn't played a True Silver yet, and you really don't want to risk that. Not in a match that's this important. He is debating it though, because he has lethal if it goes. And when I say he, it's the entire Managrind team. They have lethal if they go for the face. But it's risking the top deck so much. I don't think you can risk it. Killing the 4-4 and killing the 2-1 are exactly the same. So killing the 2-1 is better. I mean, are you dead to anything that you wouldn't be, I guess, Avenging Wrath? No, you're still not dead to Avenging Wrath. Unless they get incredibly lucky. You gonna Shadow Step this guy? I don't think you do. There's the Abusive. So he's just going to take out the Gadgetan and then play the Abusive. If they had gone for face, they would have won the game this turn, but it's still not worth the risk. Now, what we're most likely going to see here is probably Dagger, Poison. Dagger, Poison, Poison. Yeah, Dagger, Poison, Poison. I mean, you're only dead to Avenging Wrath if they're playing it. So Dagger, Poison, Poison, and attack. And Nyx is randomly walking off. That was just standing behind the couch. But yeah, Dagger, Poison, Poison, go for the face. Nat Pagel and Acolyte, because why not, I think, at this point. You never know. That Phantom Knives would have been very, very useful. And there's the True Silver. Yeah, they were 1 card off being dead last turn if he hadn't gone for the trade. Still dead, I think. Well, we've got 4 from Eviscerate, 18 from Leroy. And then... yeah, still dead. Slightly overkill, actually. And that's going to be the game. Now, the reason I picked this particular game is 1, because it's the last one in the series, and 2, it really was sort of an interesting last bit of decision making where it looked as if there was no way back from it. And the Blade Flurry was a bit of a lucky draw, but it was really far down in the deck at this point. Had already drawn a lot of cards. Now, there could even be the BM sort of Blade, there could even be the BM Fan of Knives of Preparation at this point. I think that'd be quite funny. But no, they're not going to. They're being sportsmanlike, they're just going to kill him. And that seals the entire game. So overall, what happened there was the summary of the entire of the ESGN Fight Night season In the first season, it went 3-2 to Dogehouse, and they won the ace match 3-1. Second season, it was 2-2, tied up, went to ace match, Managrind won 3-2. So overall, they completely tied. They basically completely tied in Fight Night between Dogehouse and Managrind, which I think was a very, very interesting outcome, and not one that many people expected. I think a lot of people expected either Dogehouse to completely steamroll them or Managrind to come through and win. But it was a complete draw. It was completely scripted. I think at one point the commentator actually said you could not even script it as well as it happened. You couldn't script it as well as it happened. There was even a moment where Dark 1X and Artosis both spin the wheel and they got each other. It was quite funny, but there was a lot of very, very interesting moments from this particular season of Fight Night, and ended up as a complete draw. Now, as for the two games we went over, drafting wise, I actually think banning Mage was a big mistake. I don't see the point in banning Mage in this particular format, unless there's some secret deck that no one knows about, but in that case, why would you ban Mage if you're the only one that knows about it? As for the rest of the stuff, a couple of misplays here or there that I just didn't understand, but to be fair, you expect more misplays in ace matches, and the reason for it is because there's 4 people. A lot of decision making going on, someone makes a mistake, and then everyone else on the team makes the mistake as well. So there were more mistakes than normal on both teams. I mean, just a lot of questionable things, not too many flat misplays apart from the Feral Spirits thing, and also just overcommitting onto the board and not going for the face, and the weird decision making on debating not putting the Divine Shield on the 4-2, random things like that. But again, it's an ace match, you've got 4 people playing, you kind of expect this stuff. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. As for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.